This geothermal hotspot is hard to miss. There's the unpleasant scent of sulphur, the random clouds of steam, and finally the sound of mud pools bubbling and belching. It could only be one place, Rotorua, in the heart of New Zealand's North Island. For a concentrated look at all this activity, make your way here to Waitapu Thermal Wonderland. As well as being New Zealand's most colourful and diverse volcanic area, Waitapu also has the country's largest boiling mud pool. This mud here is between 80 and 100 degrees Celsius. One thing the rangers will also tell you is that it's still very unpredictable here. I mean, the volcanoes are never dead, they just lay dormant. This whole area could go up one day. Another attraction is the Lady Knox Geyser, which goes off at 10:15 on the dot every day. As the story goes, a group of prisoners in the early 1900s discovered it by mistake.
They stripped their clothes off and started washing their clothes in the mouth of the geyser. The next thing that happened, their clothes went skyward, they got a bit of a fright and ran through the bushes.
A walk around at Waitapu takes about an hour. In that time, you'll see what more than a dozen volcanic craters and about 1,000 years can create. Although it may seem a bit dirty down there at the pools, it's not a bad way to clean up. They tell me the natural minerals in Rotorua mud help feed and cleanse the skin. The reason I'm giving it a go is that it's the most popular treatment for guests staying at Peppers on the Point. The latest addition to the Peppers resort chain is just 10 minutes from Rotorua City. This 80-year-old mansion has been restored and decked out in 5-star style. The lodge has 7 suites to choose from, or further down the property, there's the log chalet. The lodge is perched right on the edge of Lake Rotorua. You can fly fish from the private beach, or you can hook up with a local like John Hamill. Now, John, I've got to say, this is a pretty good place to fish. I'm not even talking about the fish, just the setting.
Well, you could be in a lot worse places in the world, you know.
After the break, I reveal New Zealand's secret wine region.
Ooh, I got to get away.
It's often given a bad rap for its weather, but New Zealand's capital, Wellington, is not only the seat of power, it's also the country's cultural centre. When you're in town, make sure you don't miss the Beehive, the very funky executive wing of Parliament. Te Papa, New Zealand's innovative national museum. Cuba Street, this is where you'll find that awesome bar and cafe scene everyone's talking about. Downtown's Lambton Quarter. Get your credit cards ready because this is the most concentrated shopping area in the country. Wellington is a bit like Melbourne in that it's not jam-packed with tourist attractions that you just tick off your list. Rather, it's about the people, the cafe culture, the little bars. There's a rhythm to the place, and you know, in a perfect world, you'd have plenty of time to feel that, but sometimes when you travel, you only have a day. Wellington City is a big picture place, and standing at 196 metres, there is no better spot to take it all in than Mount Victoria Lookout. From up here, it's easy to see why Wellington is rated as New Zealand's most beautiful city. And it's windiest. In fact, on any given day, the average wind speeds around here reach a blustery 26 knots. Which can make a self-guided tour a little bit tricky. But once you reach the centre of town, the city's most loved tourist attraction is anything but fast. So you think of New Zealand and you get images of people jumping off cliffs and speeding around on jet boats. And even in Wellington, they have their extreme sports, bananas. This is the Kelburn Park cable car, and since 1902, this little red trolley has been hauling grateful grandparents up to the city's lofty botanical gardens. Now, while the Lady Norwood Rose display is supposed to be worth the trip alone, as a young bloke, I'm more interested in hanging out with my mates than flowers. Here we go, gang. How good is this? Gonna grab one of those?
Thank you.
There you go, Bob. Betsy.
Thank you.
If you've only got one day in town, the only way to find some action is to ask somebody that looks like they know. So it's a funky city.
Yes, yeah, for young ones like you, it's a great scene. We've been out lots of times, haven't we? Yeah, we go to our local club, you know, and we like that.
Yeah, I'll be going clubbing tonight as well.
But,
So on the advice of a few hip locals, I headed back down to Cuba Street. In the last 4 years, this area has become Wellington's coolest spot to hang out. In every city, there's a street exactly like this, a little bit alternative where the culture is right on the surface, you don't have to dig for it. Bit of live music on the street, love it. And with more bars per head per capita than New York City, Wellington has one of the liveliest bar scenes in the entire country. The Hummingbird has twice been voted best cocktail bar in town. And according to bar manager Isaac Lenniston-Howe, a night out in Wellington is unlike any other.
In every single bar you go around Wellington, it's got their own little atmosphere, its own little twist on a night out. So people can get a whole different variety of things in one night out in Wellington.
If Wellington is too fast for you, may I suggest you head down the coast to the cute little town of Martinborough. Up until now, it was a secret spot where the Wellingtonians, that's the people who live in Wellington, come for their weekend escape. Well, I'm sorry, guys, the secret is out. Martinborough is a scenic 90 minutes drive from Wellington. It's only a wee town, as the locals say. My first stop is this quaint B&B, going by the name of the Old Manse. The Old Manse used to accommodate the local church minister and his family. Today it's been restored to offer 6 stylish rooms, all with their own ensuites. Now, the owners tell me when they bought the Old Manse around 4 years ago, the old bloke that used to live here shared this place with 130 geese. I think it's fair to say he was a tad eccentric. But it's not just the comfy accommodation and fabulous food that Martinborough has to tempt tourists. If you're wondering why people come to this part of the world, well, it might just have something to do with the 24 plus vineyards in the area. This, my friends, is wine country. And if you're partial to a drop of NZ's finest, then you've come to the right place. One such award-winning winery is Margraine Vineyard, offering studios to stay in after getting a taste for their worthy wines.
You like this sound?
Strat is the master winemaker for Margraine, and even though the region is a small wine-producing area, they're keen for the word to spread. And you don't mind me sharing the secret about this place?
Not at all, not at all. It's probably time it was shared.
Well, now you know.
Nelson is known as the sunniest region in New Zealand. Make sure your to-do list in the area includes the Skywire, the world's longest flying fox. Marlborough wineries, can't come to this part of the country and not sample some of the world's best Sauvignon Blanc. And Abel Tasman National Park, home of one of NZ's great coastal walks, or trams as the Kiwis would say, and the setting for an authentic cultural experience. If your knowledge of Maori culture is limited to the stirring sounds of the haka at an All Blacks game, and when you come to New Zealand, don't mention the World Cup, then you're not alone. Having been born in New Zealand and left at an early age, I have experienced some Maori customs. I've been to Marae and tasted the food from Mahangi, but I've got to admit, I don't really know too much about the history of the Indigenous people. Today, that's all about to change. For centuries, the Maori people have lived along the Abel Tasman coast at the northern tip of New Zealand's South Island. In 1642, the Dutch explorer Abel Tasman came ashore, but long before that, the Maori waka, or ocean-going canoes, were a familiar sight on this beach.
Kia ora, ko ngā taku mata whaurua te waka, ko Hikurangi te maunga.
Tania and Glenn Gribben run Abel Tasman Waka Tours, which they say is as much a journey through their culture as the coastline.
This is our paddle, it's called Ahoy. What's your paddle called?
Ahoy!
Awesome.
Before we can go anywhere, we need a crash course in the way of the waka.
So the first command is going to be tāpapa, which is just your hoi, flat like this, horizontal. When we do this, you can tap the side of the waka, you won't hurt it. Tauranga whakarongo. Awesome. Tāpapa. Tāro. Tiawai. Excellent. Tāpai. Very good.
Soon we're out on the water and getting off to a slow start. But hey, we're distracted by the scenery. What we were talking about in terms of actions and various commands, that would normally have happened those days?
Yes, it did. This has been passed down to us from our ancestors, what we're doing here today.
It's worth mentioning that this half-day waka tour is all-inclusive. For instance, it includes a lot of paddling, a lot of chanting, and participation in traditional Maori customs is not one of those optional extras.
We're going to teach you a waka salute. It was basically used if we come up to along another waka or some people on the shore. It was just a sign of respect. Ko te waka te matangi, angaruru nei, oh, e ha, hi, te waka pukana. Te waka pukana.
Lunch is a good excuse to get back on land, but it appears the real reason we've been brought ashore is for another taste of Maori custom.
The enemy's coming, we want to send them back home packing, okay? They're coming down the beach. Dinner! Dinner! Come on!
I feel like a warrior already. We warriors return to our waka for one final bit of sightseeing before heading home. That rock there is a very famous New Zealand landmark. It's called Split Apple Rock. A couple of reasons why they gave it that name. Firstly is that the god of the sea and the god of the forest were fighting over it and split it in half. Second reason is that a couple of thousand years ago they reckon a glacier had come down off the mountain, landed on top of it, split it in half. That's what they reckon.
Still to come on Golden Getaway's Guide to New Zealand, David heads south on the road to discovery.
Something else altogether, and it's actually quite famous.
We have silver screen scenery, and Katrina visits our very own slice of France.
There is only one flag being proudly flown, and it sure ain't the Union Jack.
Check out the Czech Republic.
That's good stuff.
A luxurious lighthouse.
360-degree ocean views, included beaches, and national park as far as the eye can see.
An island oasis.
Down here at the beach hut is where you really begin to feel like Robinson Crusoe. This is just perfect for a getaway.
And a truly unique outback experience.
It is so cute, so cosy, and so very fair dinkum Aussie.
United Travel Getaway, 7:30 Tuesday on Prime.
The most English of Kiwi cities is Christchurch. Most people use it as a launch pad for their South Island adventure, but don't skip town without checking out the following. The Avon River, nice for a stroll, or you can hire a boat. Cathedral Square, it's the heart of the city, and you can't miss it, just look for the spire. Oxford Terrace is the thriving bar and restaurant precinct. Christchurch Tramway, travel the city in style. And once you've done all that, it's time to hit the road.
You're probably wondering what this little device is. This is Cruise, your personal New Zealand tour guide, which you plug into the car, cigarette lighter, tune the radio into it, and whereas it doesn't give you instructions as such or directions, it does give you fascinating little tidbits about all the interesting places you might pass along the way.
As you journey around New Zealand, you will automatically discover the Māori and European history of many of the towns you pass.
Today, Cruise is helping guide me around the Alpine Pacific Triangle, a 370-kilometre tourist loop that starts just north of Christchurch. The road is good and well signposted following a recent $3 million upgrade. The journey takes us through the Waipara Valley, New Zealand's newest winemaking region, and through an ever-changing landscape as we head towards Kaikoura. The ocean is a welcome sight on any drive. However, you'd be well advised to keep a close eye on this coastal stretch and to have your camera at the ready.
Welcome to Kaikoura. There is one reason why most people visit Kaikoura: to view wildlife.
Kaikoura was once a major whaling port and now survives largely on the whale watching industry. If a whale charter doesn't fit your budget or time schedule, there's a seal colony just a minute or so down the road.
This place here is called Nin's Bin. With a name like that, you'd have to stop. And no, it's not a holiday home for the loopy. It's something else altogether, and it's actually quite famous.
For the last 28 years, Rodney and his family have been catching, cooking and selling fresh crayfish from their roadside van.
They're cooked already?
Yep, all ready to go.
This is all you got? You don't have chips? You don't have...
No, we don't have chips. No, sort of... It should be illegal to sell fish and chips, or chips with crayfish.
There are plenty of hotels, motels and backpackers accom back in town, but just north of Kaikoura is a place that might take you back to the days of the old schoolyard. The 100-year-old convent was once run by a strict order of French nuns, but was later restored and has been a B&B since the mid-80s.
It's not often you get the chance to sleep in the Mother Superior's bedroom, and I have friends who speak of experiencing the rather harsh discipline of the sisters during their education. I'm sure they would relish the opportunity of biting the head off a chocolate nun. Heavenly.
Our arrival in Hanmas Springs marks the western apex of our triangular journey. A small alpine village, Hanmas Springs attracts hundreds of thousands of visitors each year, most of them lured by the legendary healing qualities of the thermal reserve.
These ponds are full of rainwater that has been boiled by the core of the earth for the last 200 years, and it's about 40 degrees in there. And since it's 30 degrees in the shade, I'm tonguing more for a cold beer than a hot bath right now.
Just imagine New Zealand being ruled by the French. I know it's a bizarre thought for some, but it very nearly happened. They were picked by a matter of days. True story, starting right here in the tiny village of Akaroa. Akaroa is about an hour's drive southeast of Christchurch. It was first settled in 1840 by 63 French and 6 German settlers. While French is no longer spoken, The connection is stronger than ever, and it's fair to say the tricolours of France have been very good for business.
G'day, mate. Having a good trip? We had a great trip. Oh, that's marvellous.
Now, you know I love to dish out a shopping tip wherever possible, and I have learnt that the thing to buy in Akaroa is a blue pearl. Blue because it comes from an abalone shell as opposed to an oyster shell, and they're farmed in these very waters. Now, they are considered New Zealand's only true gem. Murray Brereton is a master jeweller and pearl connoisseur.
These pearls have life. You don't have to look at them, and things have to look pretty.
A minute or so by car from the town centre, historic Tree Crop Cottage is tucked away in the undergrowth of a very popular wilderness garden. Now, Akaroa is full of classic B&Bs, but I wanted to show you somewhere a little bit left of centre, which is kind of like the village itself. And if you're into gardens like I am, I thought you might like to know that this one was inspired by Renoirs in the south of France, and you don't have to stay here to enjoy it. The cottage was built in the 1850s and is a playground for passionate couples.
You don't have to go to bed till 11 in the morning, sometimes later, and then they have their brunch, wander around, walk around the garden, and when they arrive in the afternoon they can either have a spa or they can have afternoon tea, go for a walk, and then we do a hot bath for them outside.
When the sun has done its work, there is one place in Akaroa you simply must visit. I highly recommend C'est La Vie restaurant. Lovers of French food think nothing of driving an hour from Christchurch to dine here, and recently they've been coming from a lot further away. This restaurant has become so famous that even the locals find it tricky getting a table. Basically, people are drawn here because of the relaxed atmosphere. The French food is absolutely delicious. But what happened? Last year, the New York Times published a rave review. And basically, people from all over the world flocked to Akaroa to dine at this restaurant. It's gone off.
After the break, a 720-degree view of New Zealand. Honestly, it's so spectacular, you'll have to turn around twice just to take it all in.